What's up, fellas? Welcome back to another gaming tutorial video on my Survimon series, where we're going to make a clone of Pokemon. So, in the first episode, if you guys didn't catch it, or if you did and want a review, this is what we ended up with. We got this start button here. We got these weird errors that pop up once you refresh, they go away. So, when you hit the start button, we don't get an error, but we don't get anything happening. So in this episode, we are going to make this start button do something first of all, and then we're going to get a little test map going on in the game, okay? So this format looks pretty good for me for right now. This is the container, this is the whole game, this big gray box rectangle here. And then we got our little square here. This is like the screen, so to speak, but imagine that this website is like, Pokemon. It's like a handheld, like Game Boy. We got space over here for like buttons and stuff, okay? And we can do kind of anything we want with it. And I found that that's a good format for when you're making HTML games, is to have a square screen and then space off to the side for any menus or little, stats, whatever. Can really make it cool. But anyway, we want this start button to go away when we press it, and we want the game to start. So normally when you start a new Pokemon game, mix that out. So let's take a look here. First of all, it wasn't buttons, it was in document setup. We made the button. Oops. Go away. And then we have, it's right here, button maker, the start button. It says start, right? Let's make this start new game button, and we'll make it say new game, I guess. So not changing too much, but let's take a look at that. New game, it's definitely too big. Shrink the font size down, I think is right here to 50, half as big. And there we go. Looks pretty good, right? Now we could try to round off this button. Let's explore some CSS real quick. Let's just say easy line here, find. And then we'll just copy this because I don't want to type it all out. That's a good way to code. That dot style dot border radius. Border radius, right? That's a CSS property, a style property. We'll say like 10%, just to round off the corners a little bit. I think that this is going to look ugly. Yeah, so the problem is it's 10% of whatever the width or the height. So if you want it to be kind of standard all around, let's go ahead and, I know we probably should have done this in the last episode. Let's change this to like 10 pixels, and then it'll be the same. See how it's like, looks a little more rounded properly now. And that's not bad. We can do a different font if we want, but let's move on. We're going to make this button functional here. So typically you have a button that kind of automatically has a function. Let's see. I think we can format this within the button maker function itself. Let's say on click is the very last thing here, and then we'll say new element, it's always a button, dot on click equals, and it has to be a function, right? So there's a way to add this, see if we can get this to work. On click is, let's say on click, because we can't really add parentheses. We just have to make this a string, and then plus that. Right. Is this true? Let's see if this works. I am very rusty at this. First we'll have to add the on click to when we run the button maker function. Let's have it be start game. Actually, probably, let's see. We can either feed in the name of the function and add the parentheses, or we can feed it like this, but I think it'll work just adding it as a text like this. We will see if I'm right or not, and then we have to actually make the function. So let's make a new thing. and say menu functions. We might change this around, but for now, .js. And then we want start game. Oh, obviously function. And then if I knew how to code, it's my favorite thing to say. If I knew how to write or speak English or code or do anything, start game, we're just gonna, just to see if this works, show, does this work? You know, you can put little messages in your debugging, or you can just put whatever. But it's just a little flag that pops up. So we'll save this, we'll save document setup and buttons. I don't remember if we saved that. But let's see here, we will inspect. And I don't really care about these errors, but ignore them. What's going on? Looks like it does not work. So I'll investigate, see what I did wrong. Alright, so I looked into it and I realized I'm doing two different things wrong here. The first is the way I'm setting this onClick function. Instead of just setting it as an attribute like this, we have to do a kind of old-fashioned kind of C way of doing this, because we have to set it as like a private class member or whatever. So let's go ahead and set onClick like this, and we'll set it to onClick. That's the third thing I did wrong. I didn't do camel case on the onClick for the parameter one that is up here. So the second thing I did wrong is when you modulize, you can't use functions for buttons the same way. You actually have to manually set the function to the window. So if I use, you know, this menu function here, we in fact have to say window window dot start game. It's a little weird. Window dot start game equals function, like that, and then we should get it to work if we save both of these guys. Okay, so if we open this up here, so now if we inspect this, before there was no onClick on here on the start new game button, but now we have onClick equals start game. But we have to, so this is why we probably have to set the string manually, because it's, right now, it just says onClick equals start game, like the word, but we need it to have parentheses, so I think we can do it like that, but we'll see. So now we have the right onClick equals start game. Press new game, start game is not defined. Okay, so this is the other problem, is that everything is kind of running from the top, from the top script, I was going to say, the base script here. And everything that is happening has to be kind of imported as a function. So it does have to be set to the window. So to remember that you're setting stuff to the window, I still like to set it to a window here. But we have to actually export this window object back to the main script. So let's say, and I might be doing this very backwards, but this is the way I found to make it work. We'll have an export window object, and then we'll have it just be blank, and then we'll start assigning it stuff here, which will then allow us to import it into base script like this. Import window, right, from menu functions. But we might have window functions in different script places, so I like to kind of abbreviate window as mf for menu functions, and then we just say here window dot start game equals mf dot start game. And as long as it's on the window here, I think we should be able to access it through this button. Oh, what kind of error am I getting? Could not establish. Wait, what in tarnation? Let's see what the problem is. You refreshed everything. I mean, all 4 of these errors here. Let's refresh. Get menu functions not found. Oh, we forgot to reformat this, because the way that it suggests it to us is wrong. So you'll run into the same stupid errors when you're coding, but you know what to look for. You get used to it. And we'll hit new game, and show is not defined. Oh, stupid. That's so stupid. Typically, I like to import, all this stuff into every single other script. My debugging stuff. It's a little annoying when your debug stuff is not global and you have to import it, but it makes sense. Where are we? This is where we're debugging stuff, so let's just make it the first line. Oh, you guys can't see. So we're back in menu functions. We're just going to import show. To finally get this freaking thing to work. First stupid thing in the episode, and does this work? It does. It finally does. Very dumb. Okay. So instead now, we're going to actually make this start game function work. And now we figured out buttons, so that's a big hurdle to get over anyway. So first off, we have find now. We're going to say find start new game button. And we can find this from any script because it's on the document object matrix. That's the whole point of this find, is it gets the element by ID from no matter where it's at. It does a comprehensive search. I don't know if it's the fastest way to do it, but HTML games run pretty smooth if they're simple enough. Find start new game button dot remove. And I like to set up a little useful function here, and it's just it's called safe remove. Okay, and you get this error a lot when you try to remove something that's not there, because it tries to find it, and then the find doesn't work, but then it tries to remove it, and it runs the remove function on an undefined object, and then it crashes the whole program. So let's do a safe remove by ID. Oops, not capital, but we're gonna say let element equal find ID, right? And then we'll say if element does not equal undefined, then we're going to say element dot remove, right? But otherwise it's not, if it comes up undefined, we're not going to try to remove it. So that's our safe remove function. Getting all this stuff out of the way. Hope it's interesting enough for you guys. It's kind of a vlog at this point. Let's see, where are we going to implement the safe remove? It's going to be in start game here. So let's safe remove this start new game button. Do not like how it did that. I'd rather have it pop up in there. It's all in one line. Okay. Does this still work if we refresh both of the pages? Yes. So this is our game. it's blank. All right. So normally you're playing Pokemon, you would load up into like Professor Oak here, being like, you've never played Pokemon before. But we'll get to that part later. What we want to do is just pop right into our game when we hit start to get the action going for you guys. And so typically you'd start with a person. Remember my test game? We had a box little room like this. We had a person walking around it. The problem with that is that it doesn't really take into perspective like how you're playing the game. Most games, actually, your character doesn't move on the screen. Your character stays in the center. A first-person game, your character is kind of behind the screen, so to speak. But any Pokemon RPG game, your character is going to be right here, right in the middle. Okay, and so the way to achieve that is to actually keep your character in the same place and just have the background move the opposite direction that you're moving. All right, you still have to take into account your character's position on the map, and then you basically just offset the map by that much. And then you can still collide with objects and stuff. We'll get into all that. It's a little complicated. I'm going to try my best to make it straightforward. But it's a pain in the butt. First, we'll just get a little test map. So let's put our a little character in here first. Okay, so menu functions. Safe remove, start new game button. And then for document setup, let's make a new one, game setup. .js. And this is very disorganized. We're gonna have to sort these into folders and stuff to make it all make sense and probably reorganize it once we're going. We're trying our best to at least separate everything for now. Compartmentalize our code. So let's say export function. Everything's going to be an export function pretty much, unless it's all happening interiorly within one script. Let's say build character, because he's first getting built. Build character, or build player, because the player is you, and the character could be anybody. So when the player gets built, let's go ahead and import div maker from document setup.js. Don't forget to switch that. We'll use that div maker function here, and we'll say parent element is going to be container, or no, the parent element is, what is it called here? And it's set up, and my container, menu 0. Okay, so how about instead of that menu 0 box, we make a new one for the actual screen. In fact, yeah, let's take a look at what we're doing here. Rethink this. If this is the container and this is just the start menu, then we don't really have a screen behind it. So let's backtrack a little bit. Back into our document setup here. And let's throw a screen behind this. Basically, take these two lines. Boop. And then we're going to say container will make the screen. And then we'll make the border for that like silver. I don't know. Let's see what that comes up as. CSS is nice. You can just kind of throw color names at it and it'll deal with it. But then on the actual screen, we'll make the menu. I want it just kind of 100% with no offset. And this can be, screen can be like really dark gray. Let's see what slate gray is. So yeah, this looks like it'll work all the same based on my experience. Okay, so now we actually have, it looks kind of ugly here. I don't know if you guys can see. Ooh. Let's go super zoom mode. That looks very ugly right here. So how do we fix that? There's actually a simple way to do it. We go screen, actually find screen, of course. That's why we want to use find, because we use it a lot, right? Instead of typing out document.getElement by ID. Find screen dot box dot style, I think, dot box sizing is border and box. So the way it sizes the box is the total dimensions, including the border. And I think, did that not refresh? Or do we need to do it to the other one too? Looks still pretty ugly. Let's also do it to the menu. Oh, all right, that looks better. And then do we actually have to do it to this one? No, okay. So that looks great. Now, instead of removing the start button, because the start new game button's on the menu, right? And this is why you run into problems not safely removing stuff, because if you delete something's parent, it deletes all its children elements too. But when we safe remove, we can just safe remove that whole start menu thing. We can probably rename that menu 0 to start menu or something. But now we can actually see the screen underneath, and it's slate gray. Okay. Does that make sense? Is that better? That seems a lot better to me. Okay. Now we can finally build our character. This game setup. So, make him on the screen. We'll make player sprite. We'll just say player. Keep it simple. Maybe I might throw the sprite on top of that, or just put the image in. We don't have images built in yet. We'll have to kind of copy what we were doing last time. But either way, div maker, screen, player. What are the? I need to memorize these parameters because apparently the suggestions aren't coming through. New ID, yep. Width, height, top, left, color. Okay, so it should be transparent, but we'll make it like 10% of the screen. Seems good for now. Where are we? Always getting lost. So with 10, top 10, and 45 will put us right in the middle. And for the color, nothing. All right. Now this is gonna show up just as a blank, square. We could put something on it, but instead we're gonna immediately make our imager function under document setup. Import function imager, just like from last time. We'll say element image. We'll just say find elements dot inner HTML equals shoop, and then we'll make this image tag. And I think that. Width is 100% and height equals 100%. You guys remember that from last time? Other closing tag there. So I think this should work, but we should probably make a new, not a new file, a new folder called images. All right, and then I basically have to import my image that I already had on my VS Code. You see my file explorer? Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we'll go basic project, images, and we'll snag the character that we already made, and we'll go into Servimon images and throw them in there. And so now here, instead of saying source is just this, we gotta just say slash images slash, or is it just images slash? We will find out. See if this works as we add an image under game setup. We'll say imager. Oh, need to import imager, of course, so that it does it properly. And we'll say player character. And sorry, I keep forgetting to punctuate my code here. JavaScript's just too lenient with you. All right, what went wrong? What went wrong? Do we have our character element? Is that even happening here? Oh, build player. Oh, we never actually run build player. That's the problem. So here we define build player. Isn't it silly? Yeah, you forget to tie up loose ends sometimes. I think it's menu functions. After we say if remove, we'll say build player. And we'll let it auto import here. We'll just change that. Sound good? Does it work? Still no. What happened? What happened? Oh. Duh. Why am I so rusty here, you guys? You guys are calling me out. There he is. Hooray. So obviously nothing that we can control yet. right? But that's okay. We're gonna want to make a test map here. That's the whole point of this. So let's say build map. Oh. So we'll build map. And again, we'll put that in game setup. So export function build map. All right. Let's go ahead and make that as a div on the screen as well. Screen, oops. Oh, I went into freaking, no. I went into this weird mode here. Insert mode. Yeah, never hit the insert key, guys. That was weird. I hate that. And then you can't even type anything. All right. Screen. We'll make the map. And we will make it 100 by 100. And 0 by 0 on the offset. And transparent again. And then we need to add an image for the map. So, because we're our very own game developer, we're going to have to go draw a picture of a map. Okay? Now, you know, the problem is, like, I don't want to draw every map. I kind of just want to draw textures. And then maybe have the code make the map. Does that make sense? So, let's just make one little tile for the floor, basically. And then we're going to try to have that pattern repeat itself over and over. So, let me open up the Chrome and show you guys what I'm talking about. Nope, you guys can't see. Here we go, pixel art. Plug in pixelart.com again. And this is our image from last time, so let's go ahead and clear this out. We have 50 by 50 here, okay? So let's make a nice grass meadow. We'll start with that. Give it a little bit of texture here. Shoop. A little bit of this. Oh my God. A little bit of yellow and brownish grass. Yellowish brown. Where are you? Showing off my artistic talents, I guess. Nothing crazy. Alright, and then we'll have a super light green here for the tips. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this little tiny section we made. Alright, we don't want to do the work of drawing everything ourselves, so let's kind of sprinkle these everywhere, cut some of them off. But if we do cut it off, we have to cut it back on the other side if we're going to repeat that. To make it look not too stupid, right? Okay, and we'll go straight down. Try to line this up. Where are we? X33. X33. And it's right there. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's add some little flowery bits. Very light pink. Very undetailed, but very cool. Alright, we can copy this as well. Copy and paste them everywhere. Whoop. Bridget would be so proud of me. And then just like, I don't know, something else for some texture. Should really texture this whole thing a little more. So let's reselect this color and whoop. Yep, now we'll really mess it up. Oh, now we'll really muck it up. So stupid. Alright, maybe a little dark texture, not too dark though. Some dirt. Still have a solid main color. I don't know, it looks kind of weird. Actually, let's get like a texture pattern and kind of try to... We probably should have done this first before we added the detail. Yeah, next time I'll coat it all one color, I'll add some texture, I'll paste it everywhere. Because what I want to do is like get like a little section like this and just kind of speckle that everywhere to really texture this stuff. You know, the problem is it shows up kind of skewed, so you got to make sure you don't paste it over what's already there. Oh, that's fine. Oh, that's a little too much. Over what I got. Alright. A little messy. Let's see what it looks like. This is gonna look stupid. This is gonna look terrible, you guys. Alright, let's go ahead into our files. Oh, don't look at my packing slips there for the cards I've been selling. We'll say grass texture. Alright, and then we'll throw that right into, no, it doesn't belong in basic project, but put it into, no! It's alright, it's trying to, yeah, there we go. What the heck? Alright, so let's put up into VS Code and into Servimon and into images. No, stop trying to open it. I have this really bad like design program thing I used to be using, and it tries to open all my PNGs now in that program, and I don't have it installed anymore, and it just glitches it out. Alright, so that was a good use of pixel art. Let's see if it looks any good. Let's say find map dot style dot background image equals images slash grass texture dot png. I think we have to say URL or something. Is this how it works? Let's see. Let's see if I got that right. No. No. Build map is not defined. Nope. What just happened? Build map. Oh, because on game setup or on, where is it? This is so disorganized already. On menu functions rather, we never imported build map. As you can tell, I'm very rusty. As I put a capital P. Very rusty trying to code and stuff. Now you guys can't see the Google Chrome. Oh, because we put the pixel art up there. There it is. Google Chrome. Alright, we got it working again. Now we hit new game and we still get a bug. Not set properties of undefined setting background image. Game setup. Oh, you guys, it's literally the same thing as before. I need to remember here every time to just import show and find from useful. I've had this issue before where I'm going to explain what's happening and why I got confused. It says find map.style.background image is this, right? So when it finds map and it's not getting anything, it doesn't return undefined. It returns some like broken object that's not undefined. So that basically when you try to get that object's style, it comes up undefined. Alright, so I'm expecting if this part doesn't work, I'll get an error here. I won't get an error based on, trying to set, why is the style undefined? I know that the object has the style, but it's really because it's not getting the object in the first place, so it can't get the style. Stupid, I know, but learning opportunity for anyone running into the same problem. So I figured I'd say it. And look at that! My grass doesn't look too bad. Let's inspect it, see what's going on here. We don't get any errors above our usual ones. The problem is the grass is on top of the character. So what we could do is go into our game setup, or not our game setup, but rather our menu functions here and switch the order of these. But it shouldn't matter what order we build stuff in. We should be able to display stuff the way we want it to and have the player above the grass, even if the grass is built second, right? So teach you guys how to do that. All we have to do here is set the z index of the player and it is in its style. The index. And I was like, okay, how would we be able to make a div if we can't find stuff? Because find is in this function, but it's because as long as you have access to the div maker, you can use this, even if you don't have the access to the functions inside it, which makes sense, you know. It'd be stupid if it was the other way. So all we have to do is set the z-index of this to 1. I believe everything by default is a z-index of 0. You can go positive or negative. But voila, there's our character on top of the grass. Okay? And so now we want to put some controls in the game. I know we're jumping in a lot in this episode, and it's probably going to be a long one, but I do want to get some progress here. Just get you guys excited for what's to come, because it really doesn't take that long to make a Pokemon clone, in my opinion. I mean, relatively. It'll take, you know, a month or two for one person, I think, if they're dedicated enough. So let's go ahead and add some controls. Let's say keyboard.js, right? And so we'll say export, let keys down. This is how we did it before. And it's an object, W, A, S, and D. And these are going to be booleans. None of them are going to be down to start. So go ahead and paste these in here. All right. And we'll say export function W down. Or actually, it's just key down. Key down. And it should have an E fed into it, which is the event. And then we'll say let kc equal e.keycode. And then we have to remember what the key codes are. We'll just go ahead and not forget to import show and find this time. Show and find from useful. And then we'll say show kc just to get them started. So we are going to have to add an event listener. Forget, do you have to add, what did we learn from last time? We can actually open our folder, everything saved, the basic project folder, and see how we did this. Okay, we had the eventer function right here. So we could put that on document setup. So let's just steal these two. Go back into our SurveyMon. That's not cheating, right? So let's go document setup, init setup. We could put these in here, but let's just say function eventer from the get-go. Key up, key down, and then we'll just run it inside here. At the end is fine. All right, this is just our initial setup, so that no matter what, as soon as our page loads, we can hit the keys, and this should work. So I'm going to type the keys in order. Key down is not defined at eventer. Got it, because we didn't import it from keyboard. So also let's make key up. But we're not going to show on key up because that would be a little busy. Let's go document setup and import key down and key up. From that keyboard document. All right, quickly adding controls here as fast as I can. No, we gotta type it on the actual document. W is 87 ASD. So let's go ahead back to here. 87, 65, 83, 68. 765, 87, 65, 83, 68. I'll say W A S and D. We can keep this in here for reference, but we'll probably need to type it once. If KC is 87, we will say keys down dot W down dot W equals true. All right, we'll copy this format here for all the other ones. We did this in our initial episode, but I'm just showing you guys one more time. 65, 83, you can do this with any key to add controls to your HTML game. S and D, and it'll trigger it to be true, and then you can refer to the keys down wherever you want to give it functionality. Let's remove this show thing because we don't need it for now. Actually, we'll comment it out because we might need to figure out other key codes later, right? Go ahead and throw all this in here, but we'll change all these to false. Voila. All right, and then all we have to do is have, finally, interval.js script. I've been waiting for this, right? And we will say export function run game, set interval every 100. We'll start with 100. It's 10 frames a second, right? How often do we want? Well, we'll go 30. That's like 33 frames a second. Should we go 20? I mean, you can do 100 frames a second. Let's go like 50 frames a second. 40. Alright, this is our FPS here. So you can kind of say let FPS equal 40, right? And then we'll say 1,000 over FPS. Alright, because this is 1,000 milliseconds. 1 second over 1,000 frames per second is, or, you know, that's how many times it'll run. Does that make sense? Is that true? If it runs once every 25 milliseconds, it runs 40 times per second. Yeah. Good. Okay, so we'll set this interval, and we'll basically say move player every time it runs. That's all we're doing for now. And we will don't need to export this function, right? Because it's happening inside here. Move player. We do, however, need to import probably show and find. We're doing a lot here, I know. But to get the controls to work, what is happening here? I'm so lazy, I don't know how to actually import show find from useful.js / Okay, so yeah, the move player function. We do need to import keys down from the keyboard to know what's going on. And then we'll basically just say if, oh, but we do have to do one more thing. Let's go ahead and have player data.js subject to change. Import show. Oh my god, why is this not working anymore? I don't get it, man. I don't get why I can't use these shortcuts. Import show, there we go. From useful.js and find. I don't know if we're going to use these, but it's important to have both of them in just about every document. All that we're going to have here is export let player position is x0, y0. Let's have them in the middle. And we will go to, where were we? Not keyboard, but interval. And we will import that player position. There, it's working again now. .js, move player, okay. If keys down dot w, then player position dot x plus equals, can we actually edit the other object from in here? Yes, we can, because it's not making a copy. It's actually importing this object's memory address, and so you can write and you can change that object. It's not a read-only import. Player position dot x, or actually dot y plus equals, I don't know, 1 or 0.1. Depends on how we want to scale everything. Player, and then we'll have to say find actually we'll do this outside. This is kind of the update player function. Update player, that's where we'll say find player dot style dot top equals what is it, 90 minus, or rather it starts out at 45, so 45 minus player position dot y, because as it goes down it goes up. The top is how far it is from the top going down, plus percent, and the parentheses, the order of operations should work. We'll update its horizontal position as well. Alright, so the player is going to get updated after it gets moved, after its actual data gets moved. And these are kind of separate if statements. They can kind of be going on all at once. Oops. Hopefully you're not trying to move your player up and down at the same time, but it should all cancel out. And S will move you down, A will move you left, and D will move you to the right. Alright. So, let's see how this works given the old way of doing things, because we're still moving the actual player around. See if it looks any good. What's the problem? I'm getting lag. Oh, that's the problem. Shoop. The problem is we export function run game here, but we never actually imported that into the base script. So just as we have this init set up here, we need to import run game from our interval script. So we'll do it. Init set up first, and then we'll run the game. Okay? So, in fact, let's not run the game here, or even import it. Let's go menu functions, and we'll put it in here. Isn't this weird? Yeah, this is definitely a bad place to put this for now, but I at least want it to do, after the map is built, we'll run the game. Okay? So the game running is triggered by you hitting the new game. And as you can see, hooray, I'm holding W. Wait, why is this so big? Oops. I want you guys to see my pretty face. I'm pressing WASD, and he's actually moving the opposite direction that I want. For A and D. So, oh, that's right, because it's because the left actually is positive. So let's do plus here. Hooray! My guy's moving super slowly. Let's go ahead and not mess with the frames per second, just mess with the amount of movement per frame a little bit. Make the 5 times faster. For all directions there, yay. Only problem is there's no borders. We could add borders, but that doesn't make sense for now because I'm going to change this around. Like I was saying, this looks stupid, right? I don't want, a limited map where this is not how a game works. So I'm going to want the background to actually move backwards. Instead, I'm going to do update player here. we'll say find map style.left equals, right? And instead, we don't have to mess with the player position here. Well, we know that this starts at 0. And it's actually just going to be that. Okay, and then we know that this starts at 0 as well, but it's going to be minus because it's the opposite, right? So hopefully this works. Yay! So look, I'm pressing W and A right here to move up into the corner, right? But this looks dumb, right? Why is that? It's because the map's kind of overflowing out of the screen. So we can actually, I think, fix this super easy when we make the screen itself under document setup. Over here, we just basically have to say, after we make the screen, find screen dot style dot overflow equals hidden. I don't know if we need the style there. Oh, there's no semicolons on any of this stuff. How ugly. Oh, there we go. Yep, that was easy. So now it's going to hide that overflow. If we inspect the element, we can see here that you can still see the map, all right? It's highlighted blue, even the overflowing part. I move it around, yep. But the only thing you can actually visually see on the screen is the part you want to. And we're still able to go outside the map. We're not going to quite add that this time. But this is a good format here for running around this map with my guy. Look how fast we did that. Not a problem. Under an hour. Alright, so last but not least, let's see here. What if we want this map to kind of be bigger, right? Because you want maps that are bigger than the screen. So what are we going to do about that? Let's say we actually need to have the image of the map be different than the map. All right, so on top of the map, and this will make sense when I show you guys, we're going to build this map. So this is the map. Let's build the background as 100 by 100 every time, right? And it's still going to move. The background actually is going to be the thing moving now. So let's also fix that on the interval. Not insert. I guess it worked out there. So, but now the on interval on game setup, we're going to put a map on top of the background. And in fact, we'll keep this as map, and we'll say div maker map. Actually, no. Background. Background is the parent now. And we're going to make a map on top of that, which for now is also 100 by 100, 0 offset. So nothing's going to change yet, but I'll show you what I'm going for after that. Oh, we have two windows here. So yeah, as you can see, nothing changes. Inspect, nothing changes. Here. Still there, but what if we want to make our map huge, right? We'll make it 200 by 200. Okay, actually no, let's make it 200 by 50. Even more interesting. New game it, and look at that. Oh, that's kind of funny. Its top is still 0, so let's bring it down so that we're not cut off here. Its top should be like 10 or 25. Okay, so now as you can see, our map is small this way, but very big this way. We can keep going. See? Oh, let's look at the map. See, it's big. It's 1280 by 320 over there, as you can see. And so we'll have to program in the whole boundary part of the map and the rooms. So this actually is going to be its own room. And so if we program in the size of the room, it can build all this for us. It can display it right. It can put the background stuff on. And it can program in the walls so that our character can't move, you know, past the room. The problem is when you connect two rooms, you have to put in some extra functionality so that you hit the wall of one room, but you know you're on the wall of another room, and it opens it back up. Does that make sense? Oh, there's so many different weird ways to code it, but we'll figure that out. We got to make our guy spin around and stuff. We got to add a whole lot of stuff, but for now, we got our guy walking around the room, and that's all that matters. We got our test map done. And yeah, I'm a little tired, but that was fun. I don't think I've ever done that fast, so as stupid as that was, I hope you guys are proud of me a little bit. I hope you guys learned something. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. If you watched the whole video, leave a comment if you're confused about anything henceforth or thus far, and subscribe to stay tuned. And have a good day!